This happened over a decade ago when I was 12 years old. I live in a small town in Oklahoma where the houses are spaced out and separated by small wooded areas. It was a normal school day, and my grandma picked me up like she usually did. That year was the first time I had started staying home alone after school. I'd get home around 3 p.m. and my parents usually arrived around 4:30, so everything always felt routine and safe. But this day felt different from the moment I stepped inside. My dad wouldn't be home until around 7 p.m. and my mom, who worked as a teacher, wouldn't be back until 8 because of parent-teacher conferences. It was early fall, so daylight lasted until around 8:30. As usual, I went upstairs, turned on my Xbox 360, and played Minecraft with my friend Seth. I had been playing for about 2 hours when I suddenly heard a car door close in my driveway. No one was supposed to be home for hours. My upstairs window faced the driveway, so with my mic still on, I walked over to check who it was. Maybe my dad got home early, but when I looked outside, I froze. A red truck I didn't recognize was parked sideways across the driveway, almost as if the driver wanted to block it. A man stepped out wearing a hat, a large camo hoodie, and jeans. Strange for warm September weather. By the time I looked, he was already heading up the walkway to my front door. I wondered if my dad had hired someone for something around the house, but he always told me when someone was expected. A moment later, I heard a knock, then another. I hurried to a different window and watched as the man turned away from the front door and walked back toward the driveway. I told Seth what was happening, but instead of leaving, he walked past his truck and checked the garage side door. My stomach dropped. I whispered that someone was trying to get into the house, and it was still broad daylight, around 5:11 p.m. Luckily, the garage door was locked. Then he headed toward the backyard. My panic skyrocketed. I set down my headset and quietly ran downstairs. I hid behind the wall, out of view of the back door and windows. I heard him gently trying the back door. Then I heard a loud shift, like something heavy being moved. I didn't have a phone, and the only landline was in the kitchen, right in sight of the window. I knew he would see me if I walked toward it. After a few seconds of silence, I peeked around the corner. He was gone. I ran back upstairs, told Seth what happened, and then heard another car door shut. This time, the man got into his truck. I noticed a few tools in the back, but nothing unusual enough to identify him. He sat for a few minutes before backing out and leaving. Once he was definitely gone, I checked the backyard. The doormat was moved. The large plant pots were shifted. He had been searching for a hidden key, and we actually had one, but not under the pots he checked. The front pots were moved too. He had looked everywhere. I called my dad as soon as I could. When he got home, he called the police. I described everything, but the man was never seen again. Story 2, non-violent rewrite. Same meaning, safe language. 3 days ago, after my mother left to visit my grandparents overseas, my brother wanted to celebrate the start of summer. He bought several cheap PlayStation 2 discs from a local market. Our console could play unofficial games because real ones were too expensive. That night, my brother, our friend, and I sat down to try one labeled as Silent Hill 2. But when we put it in, it wasn't a game at all. It was a regular DVD filled with video files. Curious, we played the first one. It was a 10-minute recording of a quiet road late at night. 2 young women clearly coming home from a night out, walked into frame. The camera followed them from a distance as they eventually entered a building. The next clip was even more unsettling. It showed a pair of hands working on a door, gently testing it until it opened. The person filming quietly stepped into a home. Their breathing was heavy, shaky. The camera slowly scanned the living room and moved down a hallway. It entered a bedroom. A woman was peacefully asleep. We recognized her. It was one of the women from the earlier clip. The person filming gently lifted the blanket and adjusted it, as if observing her closely. Their breathing continued, and then the video cut off before anything else happened. There were more clips, people being followed at night, doors being tested, and homes being entered quietly. We assumed the houses belonged to the people filmed earlier. We watched them all, growing increasingly uneasy, until the final video started. The person being followed this time was my mother. Based on her clothes, the video seemed recent, possibly from the same day she left for the airport. A wave of fear went through us. The DVD still had plenty of space left, meaning there could have been more recordings if the person had returned to our apartment. My mother had only been gone for 2 days. I was so shaken that I asked if my brother and I could stay at our friend's house. He agreed immediately. The next morning, the 3 of us returned to our apartment with our stomachs in knots. The lock didn't look disturbed. I opened the door, and everything inside looked exactly as we left it, snack wrappers and all. I was finally starting to relax until I walked into my bedroom. Above my bed, written in large, uneven letters, was a message. The color looked like dried, dark red paint. The message read, "It pains me that both ladies of this house have refused to meet me. It pains me so much that I leave this mark behind." Seeing those words made my whole body tense. I called the police right away. When they arrived, they told me the red streaks were actually scarlet nail polish, taken from my dresser. They brushed it off as a harmless prank, possibly done by my brother or one of his friends. "Boys will be boys," the female officer said casually, before leaving, but I didn't feel safe enough to stay there. I went back to my brother's friend's house and brought the DVD along as proof. Before leaving, I set up an old laptop in my room with the webcam turned on and connected it to my personal laptop using Log Me Ein. From there, I could access the desktop, the files, and even watch the live camera feed. Later that evening, I checked the connection. A shadow moved across the wall. At the exact same time, a new window opened on the laptop. Someone else was controlling it, and a flash drive had been plugged into one of the ports. I tried to shut it down, but whoever was controlling the laptop stopped me and opened a video stored on the flash drive. The footage was of me walking from my house to my brother's friend's bungalow while carrying my bags. Then the video closed on its own. On the webcam feed, I saw a second message written beneath the first. "You chose to keep what belongs to me. I will come to take something in return." That night, my brother's friend's parents were out at a dinner party. My brother and his friend were asleep upstairs when I suddenly heard the front door open. We were not expecting anyone. I locked myself and the boys inside an upstairs bedroom. I heard soft movement from the hallway. The house's phone line wasn't working, but we were able to call the police from my brother's cell phone. I still had the DVD with me. I didn't know whether to get rid of it or hand it over. It wasn't exactly something we were supposed to have, and I worried we might get in trouble for buying unofficial game discs. What was I supposed to do? Edit? Good news. The police arrived at my friend's house. Bad news. We all had to go to the station for questions. And the DVD ended up breaking. I'll update again soon. Part 2. Safe rewrite. Non-violent. Same meaning. This happened last summer when I was 19. It was a quiet Friday afternoon. I had the day off, and I lived with my girlfriend in a small duplex outside Knoxville, Tennessee. We had only lived there for a few months, so we didn't know most of the neighbors. My girlfriend was working a long shift that day, so I had the house to myself. Around 1 p.m., while finishing an online course, I heard a loud knock at the front door. It sounded firm, too firm to be a normal delivery, but I assumed it was a package. When I opened the door, there was no delivery van, just a man holding a medium-sized cardboard box. He looked like he was in his mid-40s, scruffy, wearing jeans and a faded orange polo. No uniform, no logo, nothing official. Delivery for, Logan Miller, he said, after staring at the name written in marker. That's me, I replied, though his hesitation made me uneasy. He handed me the box quickly, nodded once, and walked away, straight down the street, not toward any vehicle. I stood there for a moment, confused, before taking the box inside. It wasn't heavy, maybe a couple of pounds. There was no address, no label, just my name. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It showed me standing in the driveway, taken just seconds before I opened the door. My hands started shaking. I ran outside, looking up and down the street, but it was empty. I called my girlfriend, and she told me to lock the doors and call the police. I felt nervous doing it, but I called. The officer looked at the photo and simply said, "Probably a prank. You'd be surprised what bored teenagers get up to." He filled out a short report and left. I tried to calm myself. I checked every lock and window, twice. When my girlfriend got home around 8 or so, I told her everything again. She agreed it was creepy, but tried to reassure me it was probably nothing serious. That night, I threw the box away and went to bed. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to a soft thump. It came from the porch. I sat up, uneasy. Then came another thump, followed by slow steps across the wooden boards. I grabbed my phone, lifted the blinds, just barely, and looked outside. Another box was on the porch, and down the street, barely visible, was the same man walking away. I didn't open the door this time. I called 911 immediately. The dispatcher told me to stay inside and wait. The minutes felt endless. When officers arrived, the man was already gone. The new box was larger. They opened it outside using gloves. Inside were more Polaroids, a dozen or more. Pictures taken from around our house, the backyard, the side windows, the porch, and the final photo was taken through our living room window. It showed me sitting on the couch earlier that day. This time, the officer's attitude changed completely. He told us to pack our bags and leave immediately. We stayed at my girlfriend's parents' home for several days, while police increased patrols around our neighborhood. A few days later, a detective called me. The detective asked if I had recently seen anyone doing yard work or pest control, anyone with access to fences or backyards. Apparently, a neighbor a few streets over had reported someone pretending to work for a pest control company. He had been knocking on doors, asking strange questions about recent activity, taking photos around houses, and then leaving without actually doing any work. They suspected it was the same man. A week later, the police called again. They had found him. He was a 47-year-old former maintenance worker named Raymond, who had been let go from a rental company months earlier. According to the detective, he had a habit of entering homes in the area not to take anything, but to leave things behind. Little trinkets, notes, photos, and objects he felt connected to. They described it as an unusual fixation rather than malicious intent. When they searched his van, they found dozens of neatly organized boxes, each labeled with nearby addresses, including ours. Inside our box was another stack of Polaroids. The most recent ones showed me and my girlfriend simply sleeping, as if someone had quietly walked by a window at night and taken the pictures through the glass. None of our windows were disturbed, and our locks hadn't been touched. The detective explained that Raymond still carried an old set of master keys from his previous job, and some houses in the neighborhood still used older lock models. We moved out less than a month later. I still don't know how long he had been wandering around our street, how many nights he had quietly passed by the windows unnoticed. To this day, whenever I see a plain cardboard box on a porch, I feel that same chill crawl up my spine. Because the most unsettling moment wasn't finding the photos. It was realizing he had handed one to me personally. And I didn't even understand what it meant until much later. That same year, my mum was working her usual overnight shift at the hospital. I knew I wouldn't see her until the next morning, probably exhausted and still wearing her uniform. I always made her breakfast before school. Nothing fancy, but something warm. Toast, scrambled eggs, turkey bacon. She appreciated all of it, even if I was terrible at cooking. We said goodnight around 10:15. I settled onto the couch with my dog, Pepe, and turned off the lights to make the TV feel more atmospheric. After one episode, I thought it would be even better if I relaxed a bit more, so I went upstairs. My hallway is long, narrow, and leads to the quiet side of the house, where my dad's old office and the unused guest room still sit untouched, filled with sentimental things we never got rid of. My room is at the very end. I opened the door, grabbed my decorative glass piece from the nightstand, and admired it for a moment. 16 inches tall, made from hand-blown blue glass that swirled like ocean waves. Flecks inside glowed faint green in the dark. It looked more like art than anything else. I headed back down to the living room and sat beside Pepe, who was already snoring. I tried a new strain my friend had given me. He said it was experimental. It shimmered with crystals reflecting strange colors. Purple, orange, red, even blue and pink. Odd, but beautiful. I took one inhale, normal taste at first, then a faint citrus glow. 15 minutes passed. The TV became hypnotic. The couch felt like warm clay molding to my body, and my eyelids grew heavier than I'd ever felt before. Then everything slipped away, and when I finally regained awareness, I felt slow, heavy, like waking up from the deepest sleep imaginable. The lights in the living room were still off, but now the entire house was dark. I hadn't done that. The TV flickered silently, and then I realized why my breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move, not fully paralyzed, but weighed down, like my body was suspended in thick sand. Only my eyes and the very tips of my fingers and toes could twitch. Pepe slept peacefully beside me, totally unaware of what I was experiencing. I tried to nudge him, then stopped. What could he do? The couch that had felt so warm moments ago now felt cold and firm, almost unfamiliar beneath me. Panic rose in my chest, not because I couldn't move, but because I heard a sound from upstairs. A floorboard creaked. I knew every sound this house made. Each step had its own signature. This particular creak came from the very top of the staircase. Someone, or something, was upstairs. Slow, deliberate cracks followed, growing closer with each step. My eyes began to water. The stairwell was only partially visible from where I lay, but I couldn't look away, even if I wanted to. I didn't want to see who it was. I didn't want to see what was coming, but I couldn't close my eyes. If something was approaching, I would witness it in full, whether I wanted to or not. Seconds stretched into minutes. My heartbeat thudded so loudly, it felt like the room was pulsing with it. Sweat trickled across my forehead, even though I couldn't lift a finger to wipe it. The TV's audio dissolved into a faint ringing. The slow steps grew clearer as the figure's weight pressed down on each stair. Through the dim light, I saw a shape, a hand, resting against the wall. It blocked just enough of the stairwell that I couldn't see who it belonged to. My throat released a soft, muffled sound, the only noise I could make. I felt like a deer caught in headlights, unable to run or even flinch. I didn't know whether I was still under the effects of the strain or if this was something else entirely. The hand moved slowly. It lifted its fingers one by one and tapped them back down, a slow, rhythmic pattern. Once, twice, 3 times, a deliberate, echoing cadence. Then the figure stepped forward onto the final stair. Its full shape came into view, tall, impossibly tall. Its arms hung low, as if stretched by an unseen weight. Its face held an unnaturally wide expression, almost like a distorted smile, but not aggressive, not harmful, just overwhelmingly present, like something trying to mimic a human expression, but not quite understanding how. It stood there, simply watching me, as if waiting for a reaction. It wasn't threatening me. It wasn't approaching too fast. It was just observing, curious, studying me, as if trying to understand what I was feeling. A faint, rumbling sound came from its chest. Not laughter, not growling. More like a deep, resonant hum, as if it was trying to speak but didn't know how. It tilted its head. My eyes burned from not blinking. Tears blurred my vision. The presence slowly moved toward me, its long arms drifting behind it, fingers still tapping that same steady rhythm on the floorboards. Up close, its features were unsettling, but not aggressive, as if someone had taken a human face and rearranged it with the wrong instructions. Its small red eyes reflected the TV's glow, focusing entirely on me. It was close enough now that I could feel a shift in the air, a strange energy around me. I needed to do something, anything. Then I noticed it, a faint green glow near my hand, my glass piece.